The cab's tires whispered over wet asphalt, slicing through the midnight streets of Manhattan. The neon from a nearby diner blinked against the window glass, painting fleeting streaks of pink and blue over Ethan Morgan's face. Beside him, Clara rested her hand on her lap, fingers curled loosely, the gold wedding band glinting under the passing streetlights. They had just landed from Santorini, 2 weeks of blue-domed churches, sun-drenched breakfasts, and holding hands in whitewashed alleyways. To anyone watching their Instagram feed, theirs was a love story steeped in perfection. And yet, inside the cab, silence swelled like fog. Ethan scrolled through emails on his phone that didn't matter. Clara's gaze drifted beyond the window, into the reflections of rain and glass towers. She smiled faintly when she noticed a couple huddled under one umbrella, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. The apartment, the loft on 23rd Street, smelled faintly of coffee and cedar from the diffuser Clara always kept on. They dropped their luggage near the door. Ethan loosened his tie, even though he hadn't worn one in days. Clara pulled off her coat, hanging it neatly, as though the act of keeping order could anchor her in place. That night, they unpacked without speaking much. He placed his watch back on the dresser. She arranged her jewelry on the vanity. Small things began to feel off. Ethan left his socks on the kitchen counter while searching for coffee capsules the next morning, something he'd never done before. Clara closed her laptop when he walked into the room, as though instinctively guarding something. The rainy Tuesday. It was the first Tuesday back. Ethan came home early, rain dripping from his jacket, the city's scent of hot asphalt and exhaust clinging to him. He found Clara in the bedroom, standing by her desk. She quickly slid a manila folder into the bottom drawer and closed it before turning. "What's that?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. "Just old work stuff," she replied too quickly. He didn't push. But later, lying beside her in the dark, he realized he was counting the seconds between her breaths, wondering if each inhale carried a truth she wasn't ready to tell. The first crack. The fight started over a forgotten dinner reservation. "You said you'd book it," Clara said, her voice tight. "I've been swamped," Ethan replied, leaning against the counter. "Why does it matter so much?" "It matters because you promised," she shot back. "You keep making promises, and then—" She stopped abruptly, swallowing her words. "And then what?" His voice was low but sharp. "You're not the man you said you'd be." The words landed like glass shattering between them. Ethan stood there, watching her, feeling the truth cut through him and the dread that maybe she was right. The office was nearly empty by the time Ethan realized he'd stopped working hours ago. The hum of the HVAC filled the silence, the faint scent of burnt coffee lingering from the afternoon pot. His computer screen glowed with an open spreadsheet he hadn't touched. He thought about Clara's face when she said it. "I didn't think it mattered." Her tone had been almost gentle, as though she was breaking something fragile between them on purpose. Ethan had believed marriage meant building a fortress together, bracing against the storms outside. But what if the cracks came from within? What if you woke up one day and realized the person you'd let inside had brought their own storm with them? Was I blind? Or did I just want to be blind? He thought, rubbing the back of his neck. Maybe he'd ignored the signs, the way she avoided talking about her past, the evasive half-smiles. Maybe he was complicit in the lie because the version of Clara he loved was safer than the truth. Clara's thoughts. Clara sat on the bathroom floor at 2:14 a.m., knees pulled to her chest, the cool marble pressing against her skin. The city noise bled in through the half-open window, distant sirens, the occasional honk, the low murmur of life continuing without her. She held a thin silver bracelet Ethan had given her 2 years ago, the one from their first anniversary of dating. Back then, they had eaten pasta at a cramped trattoria in Greenwich Village, drinking wine until the owner closed up. She had believed in him then. She had believed in herself then. Now, the bracelet felt like a relic from another life. She wanted to tell him everything about Daniel, about the restless years after, about the decisions she made in the shadows. But she pictured Ethan's face, the way his jaw set when he was disappointed, and the words locked in her throat. "If I tell him more, I'll lose him. If I tell him less, I've already lost him." The dinner party. They accepted the invitation because that's what couples like them were supposed to do. Saturday night. A brownstone in Brooklyn, the air thick with the scent of roasted garlic, rosemary, and laughter. A long wooden table surrounded by friends, wine glasses catching the candlelight. Ethan reached for Clara's hand under the table, not because he felt the impulse, but because he knew people were watching. She responded with a smile, so perfect it could have been photographed for a lifestyle magazine. To everyone else, they were the ideal pair. Inside jokes, gentle touches, shared glances. Inside, both were silently counting the minutes until they could leave. Later, in the cab ride home, they didn't speak. The city passed them by in blurred streaks of light and shadow. The letter. A week later, Ethan found it on the kitchen counter, an envelope with his name written in Clara's neat, looping handwriting. His hands felt cold as he slid a finger under the seal. Ethan, I think we've both been pretending. I can't undo the past, and I'm not sure I can be the person you thought you married. You deserve someone you don't have to doubt, someone you can trust without asking. I love you, but I love the before version of us. And I think you do too. I'll be staying at the Mercer Hotel for a while. Don't come looking for me unless you're ready to see all of me, not just the parts you like. Clara. He read it twice. The kitchen felt impossibly quiet. The city outside seemed to hum louder, as though it was daring him to decide. The choice. That night, Ethan stood on their rooftop. The wind cut against his face, carrying the scent of rain and distant smoke. Below, the city was a grid of light and motion, millions of stories, each one unfolding in secret. He imagined walking away. He imagined chasing her. Both options felt like tearing something vital from himself. Somewhere down on 23rd Street, a siren wailed and faded into the night. He closed his eyes, and the last image he saw was Clara turning toward him in Santorini, sunlight in her hair, before everything began to unravel. The rain hadn't stopped all day. It pooled in the uneven pavement, ran down the sides of cabs, and blurred the outlines of people rushing past. Ethan stood across the street from the Mercer Hotel, collar up, coat damp, staring at the revolving glass doors as though they were a border between two lives. The lobby was warm, with low amber lighting and the faint scent of cedarwood and coffee. Jazz played softly from hidden speakers, each note a slow exhale. Behind the polished reception desk, the concierge looked up at him, perhaps sensing that this wasn't a business check-in. Room 507, the man said after a brief pause. His voice was quiet, almost careful, as if handing Ethan a piece of something fragile. The elevator ride was suffocating. The mirrored walls reflected his face from every angle, the tight jaw, the restless eyes, the uncertainty he couldn't hide. His pulse quickened with each floor. By the time the bell chimed at the fifth, he had no idea if he wanted the door to open. The door. Clara opened it slowly, her fingers still curled around the handle. She was barefoot, wearing one of his old shirts, her hair damp from a recent shower. The faint trace of her perfume, sandalwood and iris, wrapped around him before she spoke. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I almost didn't. His voice was steady, but there was a tremor underneath. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. The rain tapped against the tall window behind her. New York skyline softened into a watercolor of gold and gray. The conversation. Inside, the room was simple but elegant. A low bed, dark wood furniture, a half-empty glass of wine on the nightstand. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, tucking one leg beneath her. Ethan took the armchair, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. I didn't lie because I didn't care, Clara began. Her voice was steady, but her eyes moved constantly, as if searching the room for somewhere safe to land. I lied because I thought if you saw all my broken pieces, you'd leave. His jaw tightened. And now, she swallowed. Now I think maybe love isn't about hiding the worst of yourself. Maybe it's about finding someone who can stand it. He shook his head slightly. But what if I can't? Her eyes glistened. Then we both know where this ends. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the rain and the distant hum of the city. Ethan's thoughts. He looked at her, the woman who had lied to him, who had shattered the image he'd built in his mind. But she was also the woman who once made him believe in things he didn't think he deserved. Safety, warmth, a future. Do I love her? Or do I love the memory of her? Clara's thoughts. She watched him, the set of his shoulders, the way he gripped his hands together like he was holding on to something slippery. She thought of the night he had proposed. How certain he had looked. How certain she had felt saying yes. Do I want him? Or do I want to go back to the moment before we began to unravel? The ending. They didn't move toward each other. They didn't promise to fix anything. They simply stayed there, in the quiet, the space between them filled with things neither of them could yet say. Outside, the city pulsed, indifferent, alive, endless. Somewhere in the streets below, a siren wailed and then disappeared into the distance. Whether they walked out of that room together or alone would be a decision that would follow them for the rest of their lives. And for now, that decision remained unmade.